Welcome back to the Createch stage at Virtual CogX. A special welcome to those of you who are new to the stage today. The Createch stage is hosted by the UK Creative Industries Council and supported by Facebook, UKRI, Moore Kingston Smith and Digital Catapult. CogX is all about community, and if the creative industries is the community you want to belong to, just email us at createch@thecreativeindustries.co.uk and we'll make sure to keep you involved. Please hashtag your appreciation of Createch too, using hashtag Createch and CognitionX 2020. The overall theme of CogX this year is how do we get the next 10 years right? And for us in the creative industries, that means how do we invent, master and manage the new world where creativity meets technology? Our next session has been curated by Facebook, the global social networking site. Facebook, of course, is US headquartered, but a significant inward investor to the UK. The UK is the second biggest market in the world for Facebook, and they employ almost 4,000 people in the UK. Facebook have opened their largest software engineering hub outside of the US in London. Facebook's VP EMEA, Nicola Mendelsohn, is a strong advocate of the UK creative industries. Former chair of the Creative Industries Council, she was instrumental in helping us get this Createch program started. She's an inspiration, mentor, and friend. She's also a community leader in her own right and through her work at Facebook. She is very much community personified. When I was searching about how to introduce Facebook, I came across this phrase which helped sum it up for me. Facebook is about helping people share information and share themselves. Extraordinary times bring people together in new ways, both in the UK and globally, and nowhere more so than on the Facebook platform. Let's hear how. A big welcome to Nicola Mendelsohn and her guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And it has been amazing to see so many things that you and I have done together over the years in service of the creative industries. And I know that this isn't the format that any of us were planning for this year's Createch, but I think it's amazing that we've been able to go ahead virtually bigger and better than ever before. But I think the last few months have also taught us about huge challenge that so many of us have faced. But the crisis has also talked to us about the importance of connecting with other people and really how hard it is when we can't do this. So today I am joined by some fantastic community leaders who've really embraced the challenge of lockdown and used it to turn it into something, well, quite phenomenal and acted in a way as real lifelines for their members. So I'm going to welcome each one at a time and ask them to introduce themselves and say a little bit about the groups that you run. So Mel, can I welcome you first?
Hi, Nicola. Thanks for having me today.
Good to see you.
So hello, everyone out there. I'm Mel Bound, the founder of This Mum Runs. And I started This Mum Runs after struggling with the isolation and pressures of being a new mum and becoming completely inactive after I had surgery on my spine when my daughter was 18 months old. I know we're talking today a little bit about a global crisis, but at that point in my life, that was a time of real personal crisis. And I was lucky enough to have a physio who encouraged me to find another unfit mum to maybe start running with. So I put a post onto a local Facebook group sharing my story, and 75 mums turned up one November evening in the pouring rain to meet me for a run. And that was a massive light bulb moment for me because I realized that there were lots of women that were juggling the same things as me, that were struggling with the same things as me, the lack of confidence, the lack of time, the millions of balls are all juggling every day. So we went out that evening, we went out for a 10-minute run together, and I went home and set up a group on Facebook called This Mum Runs. And 5 years later, we're now a global community of more than 100,000 women. In more normal times, we host free weekly runs, in fact, 7,000 runs every single year from 60 different locations. And our mission is to change how women feel about themselves and how they feel about exercise. And our goal is getting 1.5 million women active over the next 3 years. So from that first innocent post on Facebook to a global movement, it's been quite a journey, and I hope to share a little bit about that today.
And you definitely will, Mel. Thank you and welcome. Now let's move to Anne. Tell us about you and your group.
Hi there, super happy to be here with you. So my name is Anne Scott, and as you can tell from the accent, I'm from Scotland, but I now live in Spain. And I'm founder of Girl Gone International, which I started in 2010 in the midst of a personal crisis, just like Mel started her community. And I just moved to Hamburg, and it was my 10th city move in 10 years. And I felt really disorientated, disempowered, de-skilled, and deeply socially isolated. And I did not feel safe or happy in my marriage. So I started the community really as a way to throw myself a lifeline. And as I grew and scaled up, so the community has grown and scaled. And now we're a deeply diverse global community of 500,000 who share we all share this vision of a world where no woman has to feel alone wherever she goes. And we believe that together we can go so much further in every area in life. So to that end, we have so far held 15,000 free events across 200 local Facebook groups in 55 countries, all organised by an amazing volunteer team of 600. And the goal is to help women meaningfully connect to each other locally in real life, as well as online, where we have a monthly organic reach of up to 8 million per month. And our hope really is to eventually reach, connect, and empower all of the 112 million women who live outside the country of their birth through choice or circumstance.
And I've absolutely no doubt that alongside Mel, you will realise that vision, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that in a moment. But let me also welcome Neil now. Neil, welcome.
Yes, hello, Nicola. Hi, everyone. So I'm Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of the Delegate Wranglers group, which is for the event industry, and we're based predominantly on Facebook. We've got 30,000 members plus worldwide. We grow by about 400 a month. How I started the group was I've been an event manager for over 20 years, working predominantly in the pharmaceutical industry all over the world, managing events all over the world. So in 2014, I set up the group to help me do my job better and to kind of rely on to work with people who are new in the industry. Since then, in 2016, it was kind of developing into a business for me because it was so useful for everybody. And then since then, the journey has been one of kind of organic growth. And slowly but surely, we've kind of politely disrupted the industry. It's basically a new way for the event industry to do business, which incidentally, the event industry is worth over £70 billion each year. So we've developed this new way to connect and do business that wasn't there before by collaboration, by offering opportunities for all, and basically operating the group with a lot of positivity. Pre-COVID-19, the group was having about over £1 million worth of business on there placed every week. So lots of opportunities, but the group is so much more than that. There's something on there for everybody. Event managers can get the problem solved, find new suppliers network. Suppliers can get business, find new leads, see what new trends are developing. But the most important thing about our group is, the vibe of it. It's very positive. We connect people based on trust, recommendations. Our mantra is to make it happen. So hopefully that's been what we've been doing since we started and during the COVID-19 crisis as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be great to chat to you in a minute about some of the things that you've pivoted from a whole industry that's not been able to do what it normally did. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But Mel, I'll come back to you now. How's your community been affected by the current environment?
Well, I mean, hugely. If you imagine a community of 100,000 mums that almost overnight found themselves in the position of almost having a double full-time job, juggling their full-time work, but also homeschooling their children. And so quite quickly, we saw a lot of emotional distress pouring into our communities of women sharing, anxiety and fear of how they were actually going to cope with the coming weeks and months. There was also a lot of anxiety about going outside to exercise. So that normal outlet that our community would have had to cope with stress and anxiety, all of a sudden they felt it was shut down for them. So we've launched a number of initiatives to try and help them with that. In fact, our first thought was really how do we continue to support our community so that they feel connected, so that they're able to stay active in a way that feels safe, and also that they stay mentally strong, because it's during this sort of crisis when they're the bedrock of the family, it's so important that they feel that they're physically and mentally strong. So we launched a number of initiatives. We Right at the beginning of lockdown, we launched our coaching app, which enables them to get outside and run alone, but still feel connected. There's a Facebook community built into that app, so they're taking part in that program with a global community of women who are also following the program at the same time as them. And we also launched a couple of initiatives, one which has seen over 500 of our volunteers supporting local pharmacies to deliver prescription medications to elderly and vulnerable patients who are isolated at home, and also giving our community a reason to actually get out the door and exercise. And we've also recently launched a new initiative called Letters of Love, where women in our community are handwriting letters to other mums in our community, and then we're deploying our volunteers to deliver those letters on foot. So all of those things have kind of really galvanized our community, made them feel closer and more connected than ever, and enabled them to keep exercising, which is so important for our mums.
Yeah, and I love the agility and the way that you've pivoted a number of different times in order to recognize what's been going on. What about you, Anne? How's your community been affected, and any changes?
Yeah, massive changes, just like with Mel's community and Neil's. We're global, so our community was first affected way back in January because we have local hubs right across China. So by the time the lockdown started happening in the UK and other parts of the world, we kind of knew what to do because we'd already been listening and responding for weeks. So, for example, we knew that the community would benefit from clear direction and having a safe space to have conversations away from all the confusion. And we also knew, as trusted leaders and influencers of a huge geographically mobile group of people, that we had a responsibility really in controlling the spread of not just the virus, but also misinformation and panic. So yeah, our workload has, like everyone's, quadrupled, but thankfully we already had at the time a strong infrastructure and a really amazing team in place. So we've been really well placed, to be honest, to power through these learning curves that we're all going through. We've been able to be flexible and responsive and able to really rally fast right across the globe to help community members help each other, because they have to really get together and navigate this crisis and be a safe haven for one another. What that kind of looks like in practice is that we've had to create new content, new educational resources, live Q&As, and we also had to move our 300 in real life events online, just like we're all doing at the moment. And really the final thing that I would say on how our community has been affected by this current environment is the kind of conversations and actions that are taking place inside the community. We've really had to drastically shift, and now we're dealing with some real tough issues that we have never had to deal with before, such as being stranded overseas, repatriation, job and visa losses, domestic abuse arising from increased social isolation, lack of access to local support and medical services, and really a general increase in the emotional implications of being very, very far from friends and family during the crisis.
So many different things compounded by the fact that the community you run is global as well, but also giving you a head start in many ways to think about how you can apply the learnings that happened in APAC and bring it to the rest of the world. Neil, coming to you, and Anne was talking about events there. Have you had to make any changes in how you've been running your communities as a result of what we're living through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nearly 750,000 people work directly in the event industry in the UK alone, and then plus lots of indirectly people as well. So the initial reaction from a lot of people was, crisis and panic, because the whole world just crumbled beneath them. So we had to do certain things because, obviously I'll talk about it later, but the atmosphere in the group was really tense and really, everybody was visibly upset and things like this. So what we did was we pinned a dedicated COVID-19 thread to the top of the group so that we had a location for all information about it and all help and surveys and things like this. We had to turn on post approval to review incoming posts, basically just to mitigate conflict, because there was a lot of conflict between event managers and hotels that were cancelling contracts and things like that. So we run a very positive group, so we had to manage that as well. So that was quite difficult at the beginning. We wanted to keep the main timeline free for business, for any business that was coming. We wanted to be there for people. So if it was out there, and believe me, there wasn't much at the beginning. It's funny because it's really ramped up now, but there wasn't much at the beginning, but we wanted to make sure we could do that. And then we did things like we offered help by offering all the promotional things that we do for suppliers. We offered them all for free. We basically did everything for free. We still are, still doing it all for free. And And then at the start of the lockdown, for the first 6 weeks, we did a dedicated C19 newsletter that we submitted every week that basically gave important safety information and business information about, how you can find grants, things like that. We also started a Delegate Wranglers live show, which we're doing every week now, which is basically to upskill. I've become this I had to present this TV presenter now on the screen. So we do this every week, but we interview people and we help people to upskill and learn learn some more information rather than just sitting tight and doing nothing. We're hopefully keeping everybody motivated. And we've actually got one directly after this show, a LinkedIn masterclass. Sorry to mention another platform there, Nicola.
That's fine.
But we got a LinkedIn masterclass straight after the show. But yeah, so we're adapting things like, as many things as we can do really to help not only our members, but also the wider industry, get back on its feet again.
And have you seen more people joining your group?
Yeah, especially at first. I mean, initially we saw a large jump in the numbers because people saw us as a good opportunity to keep the finger on the pulse with us and, share all this information. And in fact, relevant to this conference, lots and lots of tech companies and freelancers have joined because obviously the rise of online meetings and webinars has meant a lot more business and opportunities, and some of the creative thinking that's happening is absolutely brilliant. We absolutely, it's amazing, really. I'm learning new things all the time, like we all are, I guess.
Yeah, we all definitely are. What about you, Anne? Have you seen more people join your group?
Yeah, I would say we've seen more of an engagement, a big, massive spike in engagement. And so that quickly became an online home away from home to 22,000 women from, we counted just the other day, 100 countries. Wow. And we have 95% engagement, and that's been consistent over the last 90 days, which is absolutely huge. And it's a great environment in there. It's fascinating because we share this like global experience of this pandemic, and then they're also sharing very personal stories of what it's like in the city that they're living in. So you get this amazing perspective, and everyone's helping each other out. So I definitely say the groups are definitely, communities are definitely in demand right now.
Yeah, more engaged and growing. And what about you, Mel? Have you seen that?
Yeah, similar to Anne, I guess. I mean, yes, our existing communities have grown, and we've seen a massive influx of women in areas where we don't currently have communities asking us to start them, which is our next piece of work. But very much like Anne, what we've really seen is the spike in engagement. So, I mean, our communities were always very engaged anyway, but we're regularly hitting around 95% of the people in our community are actively engaging with our content, which is obviously huge. And also just the volume of posts and the activity in the groups has grown by more than 50%. So, as people moderating those groups, the workload has grown massively, but also, we're enjoying it so much, and just being able to offer that support and moderate those conversations and make those connections has been really rewarding for everyone who's been involved.
That's great to see. And Neil, back to you. Many people have spoken about the crisis leading to more of a feeling of community. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, absolutely. We hold dedicated promotional hours for our members. We have a no promotional rule on our group, but what we do is we have specific hours each week at regular times. So what we've done is we've actually expanded those to make them like the supplier hour +1, the freelancer hour +1. And the engagements that we're getting from those is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's, so that everybody can get some visibility and, people can connect on there. It's been astonishing, really, and couple that with the number of people that we're still getting joining. Yeah, we're thriving. We're thriving at the moment. It's great.
And what about you? Feeling of community, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. I just think at this time of distancing, we all feel this greater need for community. I think we always had it, but now it's coming out even more. And everyone seems to have this shared desire to participate and help others and to show like great kindness and solidarity. And I see a lot of people wanting to take action, and this is a way to facilitate that and make it easy for them. And I've seen this right across the board and right across the world, a huge demand for connection and access to alternative online communities at a time when we've been physically cut off from our usual in real life ones and the social and mental health benefits that they offer.
That's great. And Mel, yours has always been a really rooted in community. Is it more so now?
I mean, I think if it's possible, yes, even more so. And I think one of the really amazing outcomes for me has been, two things actually. One has been seeing the women who have maybe lurked in our communities for months or years and have never actively participated, and now have put their head above the parapet and have said hello and have shared their stories and have got involved, and that's really amazing. The other thing that's been really incredible, and I'm sure lots of community leaders out there will this will really resonate, is that the wider world, the media, the investment community, the funding community have all of a sudden started seeing the value in genuine communities. And I think it's, in a weird sort of way, it's been a real opportunity for genuine, authentic communities to shine and really demonstrate true purpose and authenticity in a way that actually suddenly has real value, which it didn't seem to before the crisis. So that's been an interesting outcome.
Yeah, I don't think any of us could have imagined that, but a really interesting one. And a specific question for you. Gone Girl International was founded to help your network to overcome social isolation felt when living abroad. What advice would you give to people who are really struggling with social restrictions right now?
Yeah, I would say for sure reach out, because it was this like simple but very, very scary act of reaching out and connecting with one or two kind people and discovering that I wasn't alone in the world like I'd thought. That changed my whole entire world, and it really saved me back in 2010. So I would tell people there's no shame in saying you feel lonely or that you're struggling, because social isolation is a really dangerous place to be. And so if you are in a community that you feel safe in, even if you don't know anyone in it directly, you can send out a signal and get help. You know, so like, for example, in our community, we've seen this big, massive increase in cries for help from domestic abuse victims who are not only trapped in dangerous relationships, but now they're also trapped overseas because their exit route has been taken away from them when the borders closed. So, for example, we had a woman in Madagascar, and she made a post in one of our groups, in the global group, actually the new one, about an abusive partner who had hidden her passport and taken her bank cards away from her, and then just abandoned her just at the same time as the airports closed. So she was left completely stranded. So what happened there after she made the post is that the community really rallied around her. They got together to support her. They found people on the ground to go and get her physically from where she was standing outside the airport. And then they raised money to help her. So they raised this money on her behalf, and she was able to get new accommodation where she was and sort out all this paperwork. So absolutely, community can be a lifeline for those struggling at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that extraordinary power of people coming together. Mel, that's something I want to just pick up with you as well, because mental health, well-being are really important issues for your group. How are your members coping right now, and how are you showing your support for them?
Well, I think it's definitely a roller coaster for most of the women in our community, and there are a lot of ups and downs, and there's been a huge impact on their mental health. A lot of the women in our community are also teachers or frontline staff in the NHS or working in retail, and you know, they will come into the community and share how they're feeling. And so I think really from the very beginning of lockdown, we were very, very conscious of what we as a community could do to support the women in our community, and particularly with their mental health. And so there's all sorts of initiatives we've been running. We do, a little bit like Nia, we've been running virtual events that we call happy hours. This Mum Runs Happy Hours. And the tagline is a tiny slice of you time. And they're at 7:30 every evening, which was the time that we used to physically get together and go running twice a week. And they're a mix of exercise sessions and community sessions and learning and social, and sometimes it's just come online and have a glass of wine together. And those have been really well attended, particularly the drink wine sessions. And
count me in for one of those, Mel.
Funny enough, they've been the most popular. And we've also been looking to find ways to incentivize our community to stay active, because we know that when the women in This Mum Runs are able to be active, then they're more mentally well. They feel mentally stronger. So we've been running some wonderful daily challenges where they have to go on a run and take a selfie of themselves standing by an amazing piece of street art or a tree with blossom on it, or a rainbow, or you know, all sorts of things. And we started off doing that very locally in our hyper local communities, and now we've started doing it across our whole community. And it's just really wonderful to see those photos pouring in. And when we share the montages, I think everyone who's taken part and everyone who's in the community feels better. They feel like they're connected to something bigger than teaching their kids in the living room every day. And that's just been so important for their mental health.
I think that act of just do something normal, but with an extra thing on, is a really simple thing to any of us can take away and to think about. Neil, coming to you, you've spoken in the past about the 7 stages of grief that your members went through at the start of lockdown: shock, denial, bargaining, guilt, anger, depression, acceptance, hope. And the events industry has undoubtedly been one of the hardest hit industries. What are your thoughts on whether we will or won't ever get back to the world of big events like we used to? And obviously we're all here today at Createch virtually, but I'm really interested to know what your members think about virtual events and what is and isn't working.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you a couple of things. I mean, there's, as I say, there's over 750,000 people directly affected by this in the industry. So it's hit us really hard. And I think it would have been easy for us and all our members to just give up, just wait and see what happens, sit it out. But basically, we took the view that we were going to keep our community motivated, fired up and ready for when that reset button is pressed. It's been a really amazing thing to witness as well, the way people have adapted and found out new ways to work, ways to look at themselves, self-reflection, come away with a new plan. Lots of the hotels, that we've got lots of hotels on our group and lots of hotel chains. And it's amazing the number of them that are coming up with action plans on how they're going to go forward safely with getting people, integrating them back into their hotels and publishing them, using us to publish all the information about what they're doing. It's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, and then to double answer your question about what I think for the future, the way they've adapted, they're doing anything from social events to virtual exhibitions, conferences to tea parties. They're just finding new ways to adapt. And I'll give you an example of it. So we would have these meetups in real life called Delegate Wranglers Socials. So we had an online one, of the first online one, a couple of weeks ago. And we, as part of it, we did all kinds of things on it. We had, over 100 people came on and had a few glasses of wine as well. And what we wanted to do was recognize one of the members was a company called Hire, which was a furniture hire group, who basically lost all the business. But what they did was they adapted and started storing and delivering food parcels to elderly people. And they're still doing it. So we wanted to recognize that. So we got someone on the group to bake them a cake and deliver it to them live. So it was kind of like this live broadcasting. And it was an amazing, touching thing when we saw him actually get it and receive the cake. It was unbelievable. And I think that's the thing that online is quite hard to get that across, that emotion. So we all need the human contact. So we really can't wait for, that to come back. That's what we need. But people are finding like amazing ways to kind of integrate that for now. They're kind of doing things like they'll organize an online conference, but then they'll deliver in real life a delegate pack to everybody who's attending. And it'll say, don't open until the conference. And then when they have the conference online, they'll open it together. So it's amazing that people are adapting. But again, I'm going to go back to, as soon as it's safe to do so, we can't wait to get back to the real life events. And, the online things will embellish that as well. May be able to bring speakers in that couldn't attend, maybe because we can do all this online stuff. I think that's what the benefits that will come from this. But no, it's, the real reason we all meet is so we have that human interaction really and togetherness. So as soon as it comes back and it's safe, we can't wait. We're going to be ready.
I think we all feel like that, but there is a lot of pressure, isn't there, Neil, to be using our time proactively and productively. What's the reaction been from your community on that?
Oh, so we've been trying to encourage everybody to upskill and to learn as many, to use this time to look at yourself and get your house in order and maybe think of a new way of doing things, completely. You can reset yourself and start again. You can even decide if this is not the job that you want, you can change it, look at all these things, talk to all these people. Because I think like Mel said, people are really wanting to help out and reach out and help each other. It's never been more prevalent than now. And I know Anne mentioned that earlier as well. So we started a few campaigns, like we did a hashtag called We Mean Business, where we're trying to tell everybody, we mean collaboration, we mean advertising, all this kind of thing. We extended our hours. And then exciting news that I'm going to launch now, but we're launching a new initiative called Delegate Wranglers Activate, where we're going to be giving a lifeline to a brand new company who may have just started in the last 6 months and then had all this hit them like a juggernaut. But we're going to basically give them a boost to their business in the form of working with suppliers. So the prize will be like tons of advertising stuff, PR help, exhibition space at a stand. We're going to be launching all this stuff. It's an unbelievable package. It's worth over 30 grand. So we're trying to do all these things to motivate people, that, you know, you don't have to just sit here and wait. You can actually team up together, do stuff, learn new products, you know, get forward and get ready, really.
Brilliant. I love that. That's an amazing good. Go on, Mel.
I was just going to add, I think it's the absolute opposite for our community, that we've been actively encouraging them to do less because they're so overloaded that the kind of the thought of having to learn a new skill or bake more cakes or learn a new language actually would make their minds explode. So we're probably a polar opposite to Neil's community.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Now, we've got a few minutes left, and I'm coming to you, Mel. I'd love you all to share one piece of advice or lesson that COVID-19 has taught you. Mel.
So I think for me, it's a reminder really that rather than something that I wasn't aware of before, but it's a reminder of the importance of really understanding the needs of the people in your community. So a community is not just a channel to broadcast information through. It's really important that you understand the needs and drivers of the people that exist within your community and create engaging and relevant content that either, you know, supports them or brings about some change in how they're behaving or how they're feeling.
Love that. Neil, back to you.
Yeah, to be honest, it's made us realize the importance of our community is much more than just, you know, business leads and connections. It's a collaborative and positive vibe that the people are needing. You know, sharing this kind of tough moment together, coming through stronger is what we can really help with. So, you know, we've really enjoyed that aspect of it.
And Anne, to you.
Yeah, I would say the meaningful communities, whether they're built for social impact or business, that if they have a strong sense of purpose, a shared vision, mission, and really strong values, they are the first place that people turn to in times of crisis. And that drawing together and using these times of crisis to deepen relationships in the community can really help people, organizations, brands, and businesses survive and thrive through any crisis.
I think that's true. And there was a question that we had, and I'm just going to come back to you, which is around brands. And are you open to working with brands? Does Facebook facilitate that? Do you get approached about it? And do you see brands as a pro or a con to your community? I can sneak that question in that came from the audience.
Shall I answer that one?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So we've just started working with brands. Actually, we've been very protective of our community. And in the past, we've been approached by brands that just didn't share our values. But we're at a place now where we've just started to work with brands, but we're very selective and we're very keen to prioritize brands that share our values, that are aligned with our purpose.
And they approached you directly, correct?
Actually, this particular brand has come via Facebook.
Okay, there you go. So, but you would have been equally open for them to come to you direct if they had the right values.
100%, yes.
So that was an answer to whoever it was that they were anonymous, but they asked us that question. So happy to be able to share. Look, we are out of time, but first off, thank you all of you for joining me today to talk. It's been such an inspiring discussion. And I think you should all feel incredibly proud of the phenomenal communities that you have been nurturing, some for many years. And it's been great to be on the journey with some of you to see how they've developed over time and how you're constantly being agile and thinking about the needs of the community. You're great listeners and able to pivot at different times in order to really give your communities what they need. So that's it from our session today. I'm going to hand back now to Janet at Createch to close off the session. Over to you, Janet.
Thank you, Nicola, and thanks to Mel, Anne and Neil for sharing how the Facebook platform can bring out the creativity and humanity in everyone and bring community together, particularly during the crisis of the pandemic. What inspiring and empowering stories. Thank you so much. This marks the end of our morning session on the Createch stage. We'll be back at 2 p.m. when we'll bring our attention to the fashion industry with a fantastic panel talking about how climate change and COVID-19 will change the world of fashion. So now you've got a bit of time, perhaps to explore the Createch Virtual Expo. British Fashion Council have just opened their booth this morning, where they'll be showcasing their new BFC Institute of Positive Fashion. So do take a look. and see you all again at 2. Enjoy.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at cogx.co.